Yeah. Okay. Fun fact of the day. You want to know why Chicago's called the Windy City?
Yeah, because money's blowing around from pocket to pocket from politics.
Yeah, it's the hot-winded politicians. It's not actually the weather. Look at Jim. On top of it all, he knows his football. He knows his trivia. What's going on, folks? And welcome into Monkey Night Fights preview show for Thursday Night Football. One of the oddest games of the year. If we were looking at the Thursday Night Football schedule, odds are I would say, well, this game isn't going to matter. Well, I'm wrong. Playoff implications all over the place. And let's just look at this Jacksonville Jaguars team. Over the last 6 weeks, man, that Clemson product at quarterback, that former first overall pick, he's looking like it. 111.2 passer rating, 14 touchdown passes to just one INT. Also, to note in that time, Jacksonville is 4-1-1 against the spread. They're red hot. Probably, you know what? Probably a tougher defense than most. However, they did take on the Cowboys last week. And if Lawrence is only getting sacked once against the Cowboys and it's Micah Parsons, and the Jets had 0 sacks on 38 dropbacks last week, and you give that boy a lot of time, well, he's red hot. Could be a long night for the Jets in New York, despite the weather. But we'll get to that later. Folks, this is Jim Coventry. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Oh, excited to be here, week 16. I love how you broke down the setup. I want to make a couple points for the audience so they kind of get a little framework, though. Jacksonville, Doug Peterson is really scheming things up. What Peterson realized about halfway through that game, Dallas is down 2 cornerbacks. Now, they've been out a while. Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis. They started attacking Kelvin Joseph in the back, just the backup. They totally went after him. And Leighton Van Der Esch, the middle linebacker, goes out with an injury. Now, a team that couldn't run the ball is running it down their throats. Dallas can't rush the passer because there are no obvious down and distance. Good coaching, good quarterback play, but best utilization of personnel. And then you talked about the Jets. Don't forget, the Jets were without Quinnen Williams in that game. He is a game wrecker. He's in that Jeffrey Simmons. He's, nobody's in the Aaron Donald range, right? But he's in that next tier, Jeffrey Simmons. He missed that game. He put in a full practice yesterday, expecting to go. That's a massive difference here. And talk about, I know you're going to talk about the weather in this one, right?
Mm-hmm. You know me. Hey, you know me. I'm always all over the weather reports.
Yes.
It's part, especially when it comes to scheming. When we get to this level, when people are hopefully watching our content, we have to be dotting our T's and crossing our I's, as it were. I know that's an opposite. That's the joke, guys. So what we're looking at here weather-wise, I'll break it down right now. A high of 9 degrees and a 100% chance of rain. Wow. So that whole Trevor Lawrence prelude I had coming in, that might be just irrelevant. You want to talk about Mr. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant? Connor Rowntree, stat guy, Mr. Irrelevant. Oh. But I'm sticking with this Jags preview and this Jags hype and these cats because I saw what Travis Etienne did on the ground last week. Over 5 yards a carry. And then I know that Trevor Lawrence can spread the ball out. What I've noticed about the Jets, they're good at locking down top, as Jim would say, they're good at locking down the alphas. Yes. Well, the problem is with the Jacksonville Jaguars, they have Christian Kirk. They have Evan Ingram. They have different guys that Trevor Lawrence can spread the ball out to. He can throw it to Etienne in the backfield. So I think there's a lot of options here. And boys, let's pull up these quarterback numbers because they're low. And rightfully so. It's going to be wet. It's going to be cold. And if you think I think that Zach Wilson gets 200 yards, you're crazy. So I'm going to take the less on Zach Wilson. I know that he just bought his O-lineman a bunch of little mopeds or scooters. Did you see that, Jim? It's pretty funny.
Hilarious.
Pull that up on social media. You're gonna have guys that are like 300 plus pounds on machines that aren't meant to support ladies over 200. So I don't know how those things are gonna run, but I don't think it's gonna be good. I think it's gonna be like, who's got the worst running game in the NFL right now? That's how those things are gonna run. Reference kind of missed the reference. There was an opportunity. And as for Trevor Lawrence, 218.5, I don't see it. I know how hot he is. This kind of weather, it's going to be run. The clock is going to run, smash mouth football. I'm taking the less on both quarterbacks passing because do you know how cold 9 degrees is and a 100% chance of rain? Oh, that's going to be miserable. That's a pneumonia game. That's what that is.
Yeah, it's going to be a mess, and it's going to rain, according to the forecast, consistently all 4 quarters. It's the percentages over 90 each quarter. So it's not one of those, all right, it's gone. No, not going anywhere. So not really good here. Now, when we look at the rest of this game, I want to talk about a couple potential situations due to injury. The left tackle of the Jaguars, Cam Robinson, went down with a season-ending injury last week. He has been a very good blocker, pass protector for them. I mentioned earlier that Quinnen Williams on the other side, the Jets side, he is expected to play game time decision. You want to watch it because it's a pivotal piece in this game. Now, when the Jets have the ball, and we're going to get to the quarterback spectrum, but this all ties together, so I got to get there. So the Jaguars are without 2 of their front 7 players. Their left defensive end, Fatukasi's out, and they're also without Trevon Walker. That's going to be a little bit of a big deal there. It's going to help the Jets. So the Jets with those injuries, especially the Fatukasi ones, he's a really good run stopper. Well, that the Jets want to run. They want to hide their quarterback as much as possible. And with the rain, like you said, Connor, the wind, 15 miles an hour, Zach Wilson throws ducks as it is, right? So they're going to want to run the ball like you said. And in terms of attacking them, basically it's Garrett Wilson right now. That's the one guy who has it going. But Zach Wilson's not getting nearly the ceiling out of Garrett Wilson that Mike White did. So like you said, Jacksonville may give up a lot of yardage to quarterbacks, but Zach Wilson is going to be throwing much here. And so we're not going to get too much further into this. This is a less game for sure.
Yeah, it's just as you said, the weather, the game script. I love coming onto these shows Thursdays, and when you and I hit the same game script, and then just watching my bank account rise on Monkey Knife Fight that night. It's like it's just the best. It's literally the best. Nothing better. What's your take on the Golden Boy here, Trevor Lawrence, playing like the first overall pick? Really, the Jags are in the playoff picture.
Absolutely. And realistically, just keep pace of the Titans and they play a game together, and the winner will basically get in that way. So it's beautiful. So Trevor Lawrence is not in a great spot here. I keep mentioning Quinnen Williams because he sets everybody else up on that front 7. When he is wrecking the middle of the offensive line, everybody else can fly around. When he's not in the lineup, the rest of the offensive line can diversify. That's not going to be the case here. And we have the Jets with a top 3 pressure rate per Pro Football Focus. Now, the Jaguars had been a top 4 pass blocking line, but the loss of Cam Robinson, that makes it a disadvantage. And you can't really run on the Jets when Quinnen Williams is in. They're a top 6 run defense. So basically, they're going to be put in a situation where they're going to have some ugly down and distance situations. Now, the outside corners, DJ Reed doesn't get talked about a lot. He's playing at a super high level. And then, of course, we have Sauce Gardner, who may already be a top 3 or 4 cornerback in the league. So where will Lawrence have to throw the ball? And you alluded to this, Connor. This got to be the middle of the field. Well, fortunately, he has Christian Kirk. He has Evan Ingram. They're both very valuable weapons in the middle of the field. Now, to get him to 229 yards, I don't know if the middle of the field gets you there. It makes Lawrence a successful quarterback to some degree, but he's not hitting 229. He's going less.
Well, Jim, the people agree with us because the line is already shifted down on MKF right now, down to 218.5.
Oh, it sure has.
Yeah, it's big shift. So what is your projected number for Lawrence, just for people at home, if that line keeps going crazy?
A flat 200. I'm at a flat 200 on him right now.
Yeah, no, I have him breaking 200. I have him at, like, I look at the 205. I like the 205 area code for Mr. Trevor Lawrence. And then, as I said, for Zach Wilson, like, I'm not even projecting 185 yards off of him.
No.
And this isn't a knock on Trevor Lawrence. Again, it's the weather and the fact the Jets specialize against the pass. They rank top 3 in both quarterback rating against and yards per attempt against in the passing department. As you said, Sauce Gardner, they're locking it down. But again, what I've noticed about this Jets team is that they're really good at locking down the alpha. There's a lot of not a lot of omegas, if you will, on this Jacksonville Jaguar team. So they're going to have their hands full. And I think that slot, I think Christian Kirk out of the slot, and as I said before, Evan Ingram on those checkdowns could be useful. But again, the game script is less because of the weather. Now, we have to talk about the running backs because when it's smash mouth football, playoff spot on the line, running it's weather. This is what football's about, right? Like you just got to punch each other in the mouth until the last guy's standing. Travis Etienne, what a performance last week against a pretty solid Dallas Cowboys team. Yes, they lost their middle linebacker. However, Travis Etienne still went off, and I have him projected for 87 yards tonight. So I like the more here of 72.5 pretty confidently. I just think they're going to turn to him, and he's going to get those legs churning. And once he gets going, is he ever fun to watch?
Now, Connor, his monkey knife bite line, as you said, is 72.5 yards.
Correct.
Travis Etienne has been 54 or fewer yards in 4 of his last 5 games. And I keep harping on the point. There's no way he was getting there last week if Van Der Esch doesn't go out. He is the whole linchpin to the run defense. Basically, Dallas has coverage linebackers and a thumper in the middle. When they lost that thumper in the middle, all they had left was coverage linebackers. And when you're running against coverage linebackers, guess what happens? First down after first down, right? Mm-hmm. And so Etienne's profile has been very low yards. He started out really hot. I think it was maybe through week 7. He was getting those 100-yard games regularly, but then just something happened. I don't know what the disconnect is, but he hasn't been the same back. I take last week as situational outlier. Jets are a top 6 run defense. With Quinnen Williams in, you literally cannot get traction against them on the ground because, as I said earlier, he frees up the linebackers to do their job because he will engage multiple offensive linemen and really just break down the interior of the line. I see it going less, and I particularly don't see it being close, Connor.
Wow. So our first big disagreement, I got him blowing this out of the water. You got him going way less. Yes. This will be fun when we reconnect because the game script, man, they have to get the running game going. It's just that simple. I don't care how they do it. They have to get him going. And it's just the weather. Again, it's the weather, and that's why.
Can I add one thing too? The Jacksonville Jaguars are the number 30 run blocking team. We said they were number 4 in pass blocking. They're number 30, and remember, their left tackle, their best lineman, he's out. So this is really up. That makes that matchup even worse. I like your breakdown as always, Connor, and it may definitely come through. But there's a lot of trends here on both sides. So we'll see how this one shakes out.
Oh, that's why we love to do this show, ladies and gentlemen. Making it spicy on Thursday night football. Now, Zonovan Knight, a little banged up. However, again, he really has been the focal point of this offense since taking over in a similar game. I was there when he took over against the Bears in New York in that rainy, wet, cold day where I probably had pneumonia. So I'm gonna have to take the more here. I know he's a little banged up, but projected game scripts, man. I think both these teams are going to lean on their top dog, their top running back, and both of them are going to find a hole eventually and break their numbers.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one, Connor. Zonovan Knight's going over that number. And one of the main reasons I said earlier was Falerno's, I can't say his first name, Fatukasi, the defensive end for the Jaguars. He is just their solid run defender, and he's out. That's huge. Trevon Walker is obviously a rookie. He's breaking in. He's really good in some ways, but still missing another of your front 7 players. That's really critical. And we said earlier, they want to hide Zach Wilson. And they've been able, the Jets have, to run despite defenses knowing it's coming. And so, yeah, I'm with you on this. There's not too many paths that ended up in him going less. It's a sure thing more.
Yeah, no, I'm completely with you on that. I like the running backs tonight. However, talking about the wide receivers, we mentioned Christian Kirk. We might as well bring him up on the screen. Man, when the deal was done and Christian Kirk became the guy in Jacksonville, it wasn't. I didn't think he could be the guy. And you know what? Without the supporting cast, he hasn't looked like the guy. However, with the way Lawrence has been spreading the ball around the last few weeks, he has looked phenomenal in that role. Whether it's taking the lining up in the slot and taking those quick shots, those button hooks over the middle, or whether it's going to the outside and running a corner route and beating the defender to the sideline, he's making plays. The problem is, as we've now beaten the dead horse, it's going to be another monsoon today. And I don't like 50 and a half receiving yards in the monsoon, despite his target share. So I have to take the less.
I totally understand where you're coming from. They're going to have to move the ball somehow. And you're not moving it on the outside with Marvin and Zay Jones, not against Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed. So those guys together, if they get 35, 40 yards, that's going to be a big game. There has to be some receiving production. It only leaves Kirk and Ingram. That's all that's left. And Kirk is averaging 8.5 targets and 5 receptions over the last 4 games. Now, and like I said, in the slot, he'll mostly avoid those corners. And the Jets have not been good against the slot. St. Brown, 76 yards. Jacoby Myers twice, a 52 and a 60. Tyler Boyd, 105. They've been lit up in the slot. And you're right about the weather, but that might be the one place you can throw the ball. Those short, direct passes are the ones that kind of avoid the bigger wind areas because it's just a quick, direct throw. When you get to the sidelines, it gets messed up a bit more. And you're right. The wet weather is not going to help, but they got to move it somehow. So it's a lower number. I'm going to have to say he goes over this with more.
Yeah, well, that's why I projected that they're going to move the ball on the ground. So that's just where our differences lie. And also, I think, we'll get to it after we talk about Garrett Wilson, because the name Evan Ingram keeps coming up for very good reason. And well, we might be dancing with him in a minute here. But Garrett Wilson, less. I don't think the other Wilson's going to be able to get him the ball. You said it. I love when you said it. He throws up ducks, and ducks get lost in the wind. Ducks don't fly together in the wind. In fact, they probably get intercepted. No, less.
The weather has to be the factor, because even though Zach Wilson's terrible, he's gotten Garrett Wilson the ball. And the number
it's because of his name.
Right? It's 50.5 yards. It's like nothing. And the targets that Zach Wilson's gotten him, it's been a 7 and a 9 in the last 2 games. Again, Zach Wilson, so he's getting him the ball a lot, and they are connecting. And in terms of the outside cornerback play, the Jaguars are not strong there. But the wind is going to be a problem. And how is Zach Wilson going to fight the wind with the arm and the lack of confidence he has? So, I mean, every scenario says he has to go more, but I'm with you. It's going to be less, because I just can't trust Zach Wilson to get it done at all in suboptimal circumstances.
Yeah, no, I'm completely with you on that one. And you know what? The Wilson to Wilson connection, it's going to cool down tonight. Whether it's physically cooled down, like those boys are going to be cold on that field, or statistically, it's cooling down for sure. I'm quite confident in that one. And you know what? If I have to eat my words next week, guess what? I'll be right back here to do it. All right, let's get into it. It's time for the Tutty Dance. Tutty, tutty, tutty dance. Tutty, tutty, tutty dance. All right, let's get started off with the guy I've been talking about. Look, so my projected game script is this. They're going to lean on Etienne to move the ball because of necessity, because of weather. But once they get in the red zone, Trevor Lawrence can throw a absolute rope. I do think he'll be able to connect with his receivers downfield, despite the fact I don't have any confidence in any one receiver having a massive game. Evan Ingram, with his size in the red zone, is such a mismatch. Over the middle, Evan Ingram, tutty. Let's go, Evan Ingram time. Jim, do you like the Evan Ingram pick?
It's one of the interior guys is going to score for the Jaguars. So we have a lot of intelligent viewers out there. So you're going to say it's either going to be like Conrad, it's going to be Ingram or it's going to be Kirk. Probably not going to be both. It's one or the other. And that's where your choice lies. Can't argue at all with you, because Evan Ingram is a bigger target on a day where the ball could be impacted by wind and rain. So I love that call.
Yeah, no, I did a little fist pump there when I heard you say that, and I punched my computer screen. If you didn't notice, a little vibrations coming through.
Yes.
All right, next up, who do we have, Jim? I mean, as I said, I don't think it's going to be Travis Etienne, but I do think Zonovan Knight is the guy. There's no where Trevor Lawrence can throw a dime into the corner of the end zone. Zach Wilson can throw a duck into the first row. Zonovan Knight, you can't be wasting those downs in the red zone, especially in this kind of weather. Turn to your back, 3 down back, let him eat. I know he's a little banged up, but if they get close to the goal line, they got to get in, and that's the guy to get into the end zone. Jim, who's your final pick for the touchdown dance?
You know, I don't think he's having a great game, but I do think near the goal line, Garrett Wilson will run crossers. And I do think if something gets thrown up, he has physical mismatch advantage over the Jacksonville corners. So it's a matter of who you're picking to win this game. If you're picking the Jets to win, it's going to be Garrett Wilson with that 3rd touchdown. If you're picking the Jaguars to win, it's going to be a Jaguar getting that 2nd touchdown.
Yeah, well, I do think the Jags are going to win, and I like the pass attack on the inside, and I do know Christian Kirk. Look, if 2.5 touchdowns to win, I do think that those three guys can produce. I do think that because Zonovan Knight could get 2, Christian Kirk or Evan Ingram are getting 1. I think this is your safe touchdown dance for this kind of weather, because in all seriousness, folks, this could be a game where there are only 3 touchdowns scored.
Yes. And that's my prediction. My prediction is right with that. It's a 3-touchdown game. And like we've said multiple times, it depends on which way fans fall on the side of this game. We can't talk enough about the weather because it can't be ignored. It will be a factor. There'll be a lot of punts in this game. And ultimately, it could be a key turnover in the red zone that makes a big difference here. I think Jacksonville's a team on the road, a warm weather team coming into this climate. I think they make the critical error. I think the Jets come out 17-13 on this one.
Yeah, I have it the other way. I have it 14-10 Jags. And you want to know why? Because of coaching. When the chips get down and the rain is falling and it's cold, what coach has been there before? I'll tell you. Doug Peterson's been there before.
Yes.
Super Bowl champion, 6-0 as a head coach on Thursday Night Football. His team is thriving. His team is vibing. I'm riding with the underdogs. I'm taking that plus money, and I'm taking the Jags, baby. I have to do it. Smash mouth football, playoff spot on the line. The Jets are fading. The Jags are riding hot. I respect where you're coming from, Jim. The warm weather narrative, it could easily work out. But when the chips are down, I trust Peterson over Salah. 10 days out of 10, and twice this Thursday.
And one more thing. We both like the under on this game. It's 37 right now. That is a big agreement. That's really important. Before that number gets bet down, when it gets closer to kickoff, people realize the weather. Get in early.
And then I actually, for all the games this weekend, folks, you know us, we try to be on top of absolutely everything from injury reports to weather reports. Look at the weather report for the Northeast on Saturday. Every single one of those outdoor games is below 0 and either raining or snowing. Every single one. It's going to be a weekend of unders. Presents under the tree, baby.
Oh,
yes.
Yes. And 2 games with over 20-mile-an-hour winds. 22 in Chicago, 27 in the Cleveland game.
Yeah. Okay. Fun fact of the day. You want to know why Chicago's called the Windy City?
Yeah, because money's blowing around from pocket to pocket from the politics.
Yeah, it's the hot-winded politicians. It's not actually the weather. Look at Jim. On top of it all, he knows his football. He knows his trivia. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Monkey Knife Fights Thursday Night Football Preview. I'm Connor Rowntree. That's Jim Coventry. Jim, let the people know where they can find all your awesome content.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. You can always find me on Twitter at Jim Coventry NFL. I do fantasy football threads throughout the week, running backs, receivers, tight ends, gambling props. I do videos on RotoWire YouTube. You can catch me on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Channel 87, Saturdays and Sundays, and always on RotoWire.com.
All right, folks, that's it. That's the preview. We're going back and forth this week. We got some big-time running backs or some low-time running backs. Jim and I are going opposite sides on our pick for the game, which is always fun. But remember, we like the under together, and we like these quarterbacks to struggle in this weather. A battle of the top 2 quarterbacks picked in the draft a few years ago should be a ton of fun. Again, that's Jim Coventry. I'm Connor Rowntree. Enjoy the football, folks.